Okay. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic show. Welcome to Wednesday. Wednesday is one of my favorite days because the party is on Wednesday. But I know we've probably done our share of participating in parties over the last few days, so thanks for coming. My name is Matt Heldstab. I'm going to talk a little bit about infrastructure cost containment in a subscription-based world. So there's been a lot of talk about the licensing changes with Broadcom, so I'm going to go through a little bit of that. So I am a systems engineer for the Minnesota State Colleges and University System in the United States. So I'm also the current vice president of VMUG, and I have some contact information here. Feel free to reach out to me. If you've never heard of Twix, that's my invention of a Twitter or X, so I call it Twix. So feel free to use that. I also like Twix, and Halloween just happened, so. So a little bit about me, the state of Minnesota in the United States. This is a list of all of the 2- and 4-year colleges in the state of Minnesota. We have approximately 300,000 students on 54 campuses, and we're the 3rd largest system of higher education in the United States. All right, so this presentation here, it's what I've heard, thanks primarily to my team at Broadcom, to my VARs, and the information is, though, subject to change. So again, there are a lot of different changes that have coming around for licensing, and we'll go through some of them. We're going to talk a little bit about VCF, VVF, VVS, and VVEP. So that is VMware Cloud Foundation, VMware vSphere Foundation, VMware vSphere Standard, and VVEP. The last time I presented this, that was Essentials Plus kit. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what happened to Essentials Plus and how Enterprise Plus is actually the new product. We're going to talk a little bit about the differences between socket and core licensing, perpetual and subscription. What about VDI? Any end user computing folks here at all? A couple. So there's some really important news that I'm going to be sharing there. And we're going to talk a little bit about vSphere Plus and then versus the new model of subscription. So that's the old model, pre-Broadcom, versus the new model. We're going to talk about ways to save money in our next agreement and infrastructure planning in the future and how that might be changing from this point forward. All right, so the first thing I always do is I make sure that everybody understands, even though we're going to be talking a little bit about saving money, that VCF is indeed the best in-class suite of products comprising the software-defined data center on premises. Any VCF customers here at all? Yeah, so VCF is something that Hawk really wants to get everybody familiar with, and VMUG is really going to be helping with that in the future. He mentioned VMUG at the keynote, and it's something that it's one of our strategic things that we're going to be doing for helping our VMUG users. Who here is a VMUG user, I should ask? VMUG users? Okay, so if you're not a VMUG user, definitely come over here to the table and they will get you all signed up to be a member. But anyway, VCF, it streamlines deployment of VMware products, it takes cloud methodologies and brings them to your data center, and it just helps eliminate some of the inconsistencies that happen with manual deployments. And it's also really well integrated with other VMware Cloud products you might have heard, like VMware Cloud AWS, AVS, OCVS, GCVE, if you're a Google, Microsoft, Oracle, or Amazon customer. If your organization can afford VCF, truly, you're not going to be sorry. It's an amazing product. But that said, it's a bit more expensive than some other solutions that might actually be enough to do the job for you. So we're going to go over some of those solutions and what they will offer you. VCF, it's kind of a big deal. Any Anchorman fans here? Yeah. Okay, maybe not. US humor. All right, so first off, a lot of the resources that I've gotten in this presentation come from William Lam's blog. William Lam, if you're not familiar with williamlam.com, if you're into home labs or all kinds of different really cool VMware tricks, tips and tricks, check out his blog. So what is VMware Cloud Foundation? VMware Cloud Foundation is this entire suite, right? It's what Hawk is always talking about. It includes ESXi and vCenter, but it also includes NSX. It includes ARIA, the entire ARIA suite. So that's automation, operations, logs, and the network insight as well. So all of these products that you see, is there a laser here? Yeah, you can't see the laser. So everything on the top is what you get. These are add-ons on the bottom that are available. So based on the tier, some add-ons are available for some products and some are not. So if you're in any Avia customers here for load balancing, for example, so Avia is an add-on that's available that you can bolt on to VCF and VVF for that matter. All right. Whoops, next. There we go. Okay, so vSAN entitlements. This is something that's changed a little bit. It's really important to know. If you're a vSAN customer and you buy VCF, you are entitled to 1 tibibyte. That's not terabyte, it's very close, but it is a tibibyte per core raw for your vSAN data stores, right? It's important to know. So that if you buy, say, 1,000 cores of VCF, that will entitle you to just over 1,000 terabytes. So this is actually the translation. It's almost 1,100 terabytes of storage raw entitled. And if you're running redundant, then it's probably going to be about half usable. So, all right, VVF. What is the difference between VVF and VCF? So if you see, a lot of the products from VCF are not included in VMware vSphere Foundation. It's a bit cheaper. The price has actually gone up, or the retail price has gone up in recent days. So because now the vSAN entitlement, which used to be only 100 gigabytes per core, right? It is now 250 gigabytes per core. And in order to account for that, they raised the price a little bit for a VMware vSphere Foundation. So a lot of people were complaining about the fact that they wanted VVF, they were a vSAN customer, but they had to go VCF because they didn't have enough storage entitlement for their vSAN data store. So this was kind of a compromise. They increased the price a little bit, but they also really, by 2.5 times, you've probably seen some articles released by Broadcom where your storage is definitely a lot more usable. But it includes the ARIA standard suite, which is only ARIA Operations Advanced. So you get your automation center, you get a lot of the features. You don't get like the custom dashboards and the things that come with enterprise. Now, if you need the enterprise level of ARIA operations, you have to actually buy VCF to get it. But it does include ARIA for logs. It doesn't include networks or automation. If you need those products, then you have to go and buy the VCF as well. There are no add-ons for those products. Down at the bottom here, you can see you can also get the Avia load balancer, SRM, and a lot of the supports included with that. Now, the retail price for vSphere Foundation, if you buy 1 or 2 years, it's $190 a physical core. But if you get a 3-year bundle, that goes down to $150. And that's retail, and your mileage may vary, right? Okay, so now this is the transition between what's called a gigabyte, not a gigabyte, a gigabyte. So if you have 1,000 cores of VVF, you get 268 terabytes of storage out of that. So you have to kind of do the math on your own, right? You have to figure out how many cores you have in your infrastructure, and then how much raw capacity is in your vSAN data store, and see if you have enough licensing. All right, VVF for VDI. For all of you Horizon customers here, so VVF for VDI is what used to be vSphere for desktops. So when you buy Horizon, that is your hypervisor that you get along with your CCU entitlement with Horizon. So VVF for VDI is a little bit different though. vSphere for desktops used to include unlimited vSAN, it used to include ESXi and vCenter. This does not include unlimited vSAN anymore. So it's very similar to VVF, except for the extras are not available. So you get your ESXi, vCenter, and then vSAN, but it's also that 250 gigabyte entitlement, so that did go up as well. And this is only for Omnissa Horizon, right? So any Citrix CVAD customers here for VDI? All right, so that's different. VVF for VDI is only for Omnissa, right? But vSphere for desktops used to be available for Citrix customers. This is not available for Citrix customers, right? But there is some good news. And I think I've got it on the next slide. VCF for VDI is a new product. It's brand new. You're starting to see a little bit about it on Reddit. And it is not making people buy the entire VCF suite. So it's only for VDI use cases, and the price point's a little bit lower, right? And so this hasn't actually been announced other than a lot of different channels online. So your mileage, this might change, but it should be announced in about a week and a half, or I think another week, actually. So look for something on that. But if you're a VDI customer doing microsegmentation with NSX, you can't use VVF or VDI because there is no NSX add-on, right? So you have to do something that includes VCF if you want to use NSX, if you want to use ARIA, the ARIA suite, if you want to use ARIA for networks, yeah, and then what was the other one? Oh, then vSAN as well. So if your vSAN data store in your VDI environment, if you don't have enough storage entitlement, that you might need to up to VCF for VDI and then actually pay for your hypervisor. If you're a Citrix customer, you can use this product and just license your hosts. A little bit more about the difference between the Citrix customers and the Horizon customers. So, yeah. And again, I'm going through this pretty quick. We're already 12 minutes down. So I do, for those of you that just got here, I have a QR code at the end of the presentation too, where you can get this entire presentation. All right, VMware vSphere Standard. So this is something that used to be called just VMware vSphere Standard as well, but not subscription. But the products or the features are the same as what Standard used to include. So if you really, really need to save some money, and you don't necessarily use distributed switches, and you don't use DRS, or you have DRS and your workloads don't float, then you might be able to get away with running Standard. I don't know about you guys though, I love being able to right-click, put in maintenance on my host, and just evacuate everything and do maintenance that way. It's so much easier. But if you use Standard, it's a little bit more complicated to run through the upgrade process of your hosts. But it includes features like HA, vMotion, FT, storage vMotion, hybrid link mode, vVols works on it. You can use your TPMs, your virtual TPMs, EBC vMotion. Yeah, a lot of the features that are typically in the higher levels like Enterprise Plus are there, except for distributed switch, DRS, so your anti-affinity rules and your affinity rules. You'd have to probably script that out with some sort of a scheduler job if you wanted to make sure that you don't have all your app servers on one host after you've evacuated. So, but this is definitely something that is missing some of those features that a lot of us do know and love. But at $50 per physical core per year for the price point, it's really not too bad. Okay, so this was a slide in my deck just a few days ago. In VVEP, I used to actually say, no, that didn't say Enterprise Plus. That's the joke. And this has been in my deck like that for like 6 months. Well, now it is Enterprise Plus. Because Enterprise Plus is a brand new, I'm sorry, this is the slide for Essentials Plus, right? Any Essentials Plus kits users here at all? Yeah, it's really not that big of a use case. Because if you have 3 hosts, it's probably a good use case. If you have 2 hosts, you'll use Standard. If you have more than 2 hosts, you have to, or like more than 3 hosts, you have to use Standard. Because for this product here, it's $35 a core, but you have to buy a minimum of 96 cores. Even if you only have 20 cores, you got to buy 96. So you might as well buy Standard, which is $50 instead of the $35. So not a lot of people are probably crying too much about the fact that, as you see right there, this is available until the 11th. So it's going to be dead on the 11th of November, right? And it's being replaced with, now it says Enterprise Plus. So Enterprise Plus, there is a link to the announcement here about the vSphere Enterprise Plus subscription, right? And that tells a little bit more about this product. So Enterprise Plus does not include any of the ARIA suites, does not include vSAN. It does include Enterprise Plus level of ESXi, so it has distributed switches, it has your DRS, it has everything that a plain old vSphere Enterprise Plus customer is used to. So that is coming back. And the price point for that is $150 per core per year, or $120 per core per year for a 3-year deal. And that's retail right? So, but I have heard that there is no room for negotiation in Enterprise Plus. Retail is what you're going to get, and that's it. So a little bit about that before we continue on. When you negotiate your next agreement, some of the products have more room for negotiation than others do. VCF, even though it's $350 retail, I've seen VCF for about 70% of that, or 70% less than that. So in the 120s, 130s, it all depends on the size of your environment and what your director and your sales team can do. But there's definitely room for negotiation. And I mean, honestly, if you can get VCF for 130, 140, and you saw the price for VVF, it was higher than that, right? So you may want to just say, ask for VCF, whether you need it or not, right? Because if you can get a better deal on VCF than VVF, you might as well do it. And then maybe down the road, you'll look at actually deploying the software-defined data center. Whoops, I didn't go through this one. All right, Robo customers here? Any Robo customers? Okay, so I love Robo. Unfortunately, I loved Robo. So there is no more vSphere Robo. It was sold in 25 or 100 virtual machine packs. So like in some of my schools that we have an MSP for, I'd have 2 hosts at each campus. There'd be a couple DCs, a couple DHCP servers, an SCCM distribution point, things like that on those hosts. Maybe 10 VMs on 2 servers. And I could license all of my schools with a 100 VM pack. Well, that's gone. So unfortunately now, we're going to have to either license them with standard. You could use what's called an edge compute stack that is managed differently than traditional vSphere. It's not necessarily a good use case for a lot of folks that were just using Robo, but you can also look at the VCF Edge SKU, which is now, this is as of 11/11, $225 per core per year. But the limitation, as you might not know, if you have less than 16 cores in a host, you have to pay for 16, right? For almost every single level, other than Edge. Edge is 8. So if your Edge systems have 10 cores, you pay for 10, not 16. And that can help because a lot of small environments have smaller servers that are maybe even older. So, any questions at all, really quick? I can field a question. I can take questions afterward as well. I know this is kind of a quick session, but if you guys have any questions, let me know. All right, ELAs. Who here has an ELA? Okay, so ELA customers are familiar with something that's called a stated out year, right? So for example, let's just say you've got a 4-year ELA, Enterprise License Agreement, and maybe your ELA is $4 million. So that's on average $1 million a year. So every ELA then has what's called a stated out year that is a prorated year after the expiration of your ELA that you are entitled to. So that you can use that as a period of time where you're negotiating your next agreement. And it's just kind of a little sludge space that you can use as you're negotiating your next agreement. Well, Broadcom actually canceled all stated out years. So if you performed like a total cost of ownership of your infrastructure with your compute and your storage and your VMware licensing, and you included the stated out year in your TCO exercise, well, now you're going to have to adjust it. And you're going to actually have to renegotiate at the end of your ELA, not at the end of your stated out year. So something important to know. A lot of you, I think you might have already known that if you're an ELA customer, but it's something to consider. All right, so when you go in to negotiate your next agreement, this is really important. I've heard this from sales teams. I've heard this from SEs, from strategic SEs. It's important to come in with a right-sized quote first, right? What is right sizing? So let's say, for example, you have a cluster that's running at CPU utilization of 10%, right? And you've got dual CPUs in all of your hosts. You could probably pull a socket out of every single one of those hosts and then do the math. What would your CPU be? 20%, right? So if you do that, that might be something that you do after the sticker shock of your first quote, right? Well, I've seen stories, not everywhere, but I've seen stories where people have gone in and said, I need 2,000 cores. And then they get the price, ooh, it's a little expensive. And then they come back and say, now I need 1,000, right? They figured out how to right size what they actually need. Well, then they got to go through the process again to get to the quote approved. And often, the second price that comes in for half the amount of cores is the same price as the first quote for 2,000. And so that can be a challenge. So make sure that you come in with the correct information first instead of adjusting and asking for a second quote, because you may have a little bit of difficulty there. As I said before, if you don't need VCF, consider asking for it. Say if the price is right, I might consider going VCF because that's where they want you. Play that sad trombone. This is something really important. One of my schools has an $18 million shortfall, and they went to the team and said, sorry, I really, really like your products, but we're in a tough situation right now. And they were able to work with them. And I saw one of the best VVF quotes I've ever seen with a pretty substantial discount on VVF, which is kind of unheard of. So it's something, just give it a shot. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? But definitely understand what products are available at each level, because maybe you're licensed at a level that you don't need to be licensed at. If you're not using products that you own, maybe you just go down and then you're paying less that way. Consider your attitude also when you start negotiating. When you come in hot to a negotiation process, sometimes it's the worst thing you can do. They want to hear people that want to partner with Broadcom, right? They want to know that you're on their side, you love their products, you're willing to work with them, not, you guys, I can't believe what you're doing, I'm going to leave you in a year, because you're probably going to get a retail quote if you ask for a quote coming in hot like that. I've heard it happen. I've heard salespeople say, yeah, absolutely. It's sales, right? Broadcom tends to look down on folks who threaten them. So if you threaten them with legal action, maybe you might get that out your back. It's possible, but I hope that the amount of money you got from maybe being able to retrieve your out year covers the fact that you're probably going to get a pretty high quote for your VCF quote, your next quote. So it's just something to think about. And if you've presented at a VMUG, my RD actually told me, my director told me, I want to be able to reward you because of what you've done to talk about VMware technologies in the industry. It really helps us do our job, and talk to your sales team if you volunteered and presented, because that can actually matter. All right, VMUG Advantage and eval experience. So we're going to continue our partnership with Broadcom. The methods subscribers will be entitled to software will be changing. So this is really important. It was announced a little bit on the main stage. VMUG Advantage subscribers are going to receive 50% off a certification exam, right? Also, subscribers who attain the VCP in VCF or VCAP in VCF will receive a 3-year subscription to Cloud Foundation. That is the path to keys. Anybody in here that is an eval experience VMUG Advantage user, right? So we will honor the time frame that those keys are available, but the portal that you use to get your bits and your keys, they will be going down on the 30th of November. So make sure if you have products that you want to be able to use in your lab, that you download everything, the keys, the bits, and have them, and then the subscription expiration ends at the same time, but the bits might be inaccessible. Yeah? Yeah. Can we take that offline? That's something that that might be a good conversation for the people at the desk. And Brad here, the executive director of VMUG, he's right in the front row here. So you've got the man right here. Okay. All right. You can download this presentation. I'm running short on time. This is a little bit of a comparison on perpetual versus subscription. The subscription price includes the price of the one-time purchase that is not that is typically in perpetual, something you have to buy outright, right? So the price of a product for 3 years, perpetually, you have to actually buy the software. And for people that buy software more often, subscription is kind of a better deal. People that don't buy software often, that just go 10 years after the initial purchase, the perpetual, it is going to be a little bit more of a sticker shock. The old vSphere Plus subscription model used to include a cloud gateway that would communicate, and this is a little bit about the difference between the old and the new. Back in the day with vSphere Plus, it was a separate vCenter that had vSphere Plus keys compared to a perpetual vCenter. That's gone. So now that your current vCenter can handle subscription and perpetual at the same time. So that's definitely a good thing. And the new model doesn't have that cloud gateway appliance. So there's no cloud callback. all right, if I purchase VCF, do I have to run the entire software-defined data center? The answer is no. You get a bunch of keys that you can install on vCenter. So if you just need NSX, and I'm out of time, but if you just need NSX, you can actually get the keys from VCF. You don't have to run VCF. And actually, right here, you can see that when you do the Cloud Builder exercise, the license keys are actually in Cloud Builder. So, yeah. Here's a little bit here about vSAN rules. You guys can download this presentation if you want. A little bit about other ways to save money. If you want to do standard by using PowerCLI scripts to do some of the same features that are in Enterprise Plus. And yeah, just a couple of stories. This is a link to the presentation here. So if you want to hit that up again, and I'm going to be around here if you have any questions as well. I'll be around for a while. But we'll leave that up. Thank you so much for coming. I know it's early on a Wednesday, but enjoy the rest of your show.